Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Emergency Services meeting for June. My name is Gary Bell, and I am the Chair of the Emergency Services Board. With us tonight, we have Sean Davidson, our County Rescue Chief, Mr. Steve Walker, Director of Emergency Services. Dr. Dan Geary will not be with us this evening. Carol Bohm is the Chairman of the Rescue Services Association, Rescue Squad Association. Hattie Norris, our Vice Chair, will also not be able to be with us this evening. J.A. Nelson, our President of the St. Mary's County Fire Board Association, and C.P. Budinsky, our County Fire Chief. We do ask that you turn off your cell phones or any pager device while we're in our meeting. And with that, we will go ahead and start our meeting and ask for the approval of our minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion by Sean, second by Jay to approve the reading of our minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right. The ayes have it. Moving along into our, looks like the CAD replacement. Steve, did you have that?
So today, we were actually holding CAD demonstrations. So we've been going through the procurement process. We're down to 2 vendors. This process has been going on all week. So we started Monday, and it is, of course, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. In the room that is helping to evaluate is, of course, some members of the board, and then we have some other EMS members, fire department members, sheriff's department, and of course, a number of our dispatching people. So they're demonstrating it in this part of the process for the procurement. We are going to do this, and we're going to have a debrief with the technical committee that was doing the evaluation and representatives from the different organizations. With luck, we will have a CAD vendor selected by next week. At that point in the process, then we will get to review the cost bids, because we don't get to do that until we reviewed this process. So hopefully within 2-3 weeks, we'll have something, selected, and then we begin to plan out how this is going to be implemented. So we are looking very good. It's been a long road, but it's still a long road ahead of us. But good progress, and I think and certainly members, if you guys want to talk about it, if you don't, it is a long, daunting process to sit in that room and painstakingly go through some of that.
I would just say thanks for making sure we were a part of it. I mean, whether being a long day or not, I think it's a lot of questions were asked and answered, and a lot of good information was out there. So.
Yeah, we're getting there, but we are getting there, and it's the furthest we've gotten, and real progress is right on the edge. So it's good news. So
I will say that our experience today was further proof that I have no poker face.
All right, anything else? Anybody else for Steve? All right, thank you. So again, thank you. Next on our agenda is EMS supplemental staffing.
okay, so we know that we've been through a very long process getting to where we are with the budget. So the budget is now done. We can now speak in definitives, because it is very hard to do that when it changes daily, weekly, and it has changed that much. Certainly, we know that we had a budget request in for 32 EMTs, and we got half of that. Now, that doesn't mean that it was simply cut off. We do have the contractor that's providing for the other half of that. That said, it's still very challenging to keep the ambulances running to where they should be. It just is becoming very difficult to staff. The contractor's having that problem, we're having the problem, and of course the volunteers are having the problem. So it's difficult. So our budget that we got approved for EMS is 16 full-time, 1 admin coordinator that is basically doing payroll and different parts of the support. Then we have 1 EMS billing coordinator. That is the person that will be assisting in doing the transport billing services, which a part of that, just part of this report, we are working very hard on that. Marianne has been helping, Scott's been helping. Marianne has actually helped us make a lot of progress, so I appreciate that. But we are very close to that. We're hoping July 1st we'll be ready to start doing billing, but we'll see. So, but we're making progress on that, so that's good. But anyway, so that's really the update I have on it for the time being. We are going to be monitoring it very closely as far as the coverage, and I certainly will be going back to the commissioners as soon as I'm able to ask for more if we need that. So we'll see how this goes. So be glad to try and answer questions if I can.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
how many full-time positions you have filled right now, today?
Well, so, we can't fill them until July 1st, but we think.
How many do you think you have?
We think we have 12, because until they're confirmed
Right.
and done the background, which we are doing, but we think we got 12. The application process for the other ones, there is an open and closure period. I've asked to modify that to make it open until filled. That will give us the ability to begin reviewing immediately, and I'm hoping to start tomorrow. And we hope that that will accelerate and allow us to fill the rest by July 1st.
So by your best estimate, you will have 12
As of today,
as of
that's
July
where,
1st.
that's where I think we are now. That could come back to less. It could go a little bit further, depending on the backgrounds.
All right, do we have a new contract with a contractor? Because the current contractor's contract expires the end of June.
Doesn't really expire. It goes month to month, so that's really what we're working on.
I'm not sure that that's really fair to anyone to go month to month at this point.
So, we could talk offline, because that's a contractual issue that needs to be discussed through the county attorney. So we can discuss it. at
Okay,
another
I
time.
just remember reminding you in an RSA meeting probably about 3 months ago that, we needed not to wait till the 11th hour to get this done so that we could be sure that we had adequate staffing July 1st.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Is there any other comments or? All right, so next on our agenda is the Harris radio system.
Harris Radio Systems working as expected, doing very well, knock on wood, always. Tomorrow evening is an interesting thing that Harris has some new portable radios that we're going to take a look at. Some of them are very specifically intended for fire department personnel. They are rated to withstand high temperature for a period of time, so we're going to take a look at that and see if that is something that is good for our system. So we're going to do that. And then the current radios that we have will be coming to end of life before too long. They have a replacement, which is an update, XL95. We're going to take a look at those. Very nicely that all of the equipment that we have that will attach to the XL75, shoulder mics and whatnot, we'll use the exact same equipment so that can be transferred over. There's the possibility that we will begin to purchase these as we need to replace radios, such as we've had some that have been lost, we've had some that need additional radios. It's likely that that is where we may go with that. So we're beginning to take a look at that. We did some exploration of some expansion of other systems. One was the Marine Band radio system that we built out last year. It was a beginning of a process. So we have worked on looking at what it will take to expand that, and we have gotten a proposal on that, and I have submitted that in to the county administrator to have that funded with the American Recovery Act funding. Until that comes in and we go before the commissioners, I'm waiting on whether that will be approved or not. But that is in the mix for one of the funding projects. So, but that's where I am on Harris, unless you have a question.
I guess the other day, and I don't know if a message was sent out, I know with my particular company, to my knowledge, we weren't alerted, but we lost the texting capability within the 911 texting, active 911.
Yeah, and I learned about that as, so apparently, I'm not sure we knew how long it was out. I don't have an answer for you why you weren't notified. Again, I wasn't notified until like Monday morning. Again, I don't know the extent of how it affected us. I'll tell you what, I will do
Yeah.
a bit of exploration on that, and I'll send a message out to all.
Because I do know, for instance, I wasn't carrying a pager, and I know some of our other members, and we did have a CPR call It wasn't affected. We got out, at least our company did quickly and all that, but
I think that was active 911, correct?
it was, yeah. it
Right,
was a-
okay, so that actually clarifies a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
so we did a lot of research, so our systems were intact, were working as they should be. Whatever the issue was on active 911 side.
I think IT did clarify that and say that the text paging was completely down for that time frame.
You say it was completely down?
Yeah, the whatever the text messages that go out, neither the text or the active were coming through.
Yeah,
I need to verify
But,
that, because I didn't get that message.
yeah. But like I said, if it happens, obviously, just,
Right.
I guess the notification to that,
All right, so I'll do some research, and then I will send something out to all the chiefs, on
Thank-
what we've found, so.
very good, thank you. I guess emergency services report?
So I know that we've distributed some information on the fire rescue loan. I don't know if there's any need for discussion. So I don't know if you wanted to, so if not, then I won't worry about that. Emergency services report, so of course, that really impacts anything to do with emergency services. Information that came to us is that apparently MIFRE has had some difficulty in providing some certification training for our future first responders. I don't know if we want to bring this up at this time. J.A., I know you wanted to discuss this.
Yeah, I definitely would like to. So, in our Fire Board Association meeting, the last meeting we had, the association actually voted to draft a letter to the University of Maryland addressing the issues that we were having. What we did not know at the time, this came from the departments. The departments, all the fire departments were having issues getting certificates, getting classes scheduled, communications with MIFRE. What I learned after the Fire Board Association meeting was Ms. Bell came to the meeting, and we found out that the Career Technology Program currently in the school system, the students were not getting any of their classes that we were expecting them to graduate with at the end of the year. So normally in a normal school year, they take EMT, Fire 1, Fire 2, Hazmat, Ops, Vehicle Machinery Rescue, several classes. Well, we found out we're a couple weeks from school, and it doesn't look like any of those kids are going to have any certifications when they are completed their school year this year, which that in and of itself was completely disheartening. I mean, very, very disappointing that we learned that information. So, so that kind of, put the cherry on top, for lack of better terms, for us of, really needing to address this issue and moving forward with this letter to the University of Maryland. So, and I don't know if Kelly.
You can certainly call Kelly
Yeah,
up and we
if
can
Kelly or Ms.
discuss.
Bachner, if either one of you want to speak to this, I'd gladly appreciate it. It's entirely up to you all.
And I would just say that, in the time that, what we're facing with EMS, and the time when we're working very hard to keep our volunteers, not to be able to provide the proper education to the ones that want to be volunteers,
Right. So what I'll
a failure
is.
there.
So we have, so the program was implemented back in 2006. So, we've had over 170 kids go through this program over the years. And what I don't have complete accurate stats yet, but in the fire departments alone, 65% or more, maybe higher, there's a 65% retention rate for those members that have gone through this program that stick with the fire departments throughout their service. They're still members today. And about 40%, if based off what I'm just looking at with all the kids that have been through it and I know have moved on, about 40% have gotten a career in a related field to fire and EMS, whether it's a paid fireman, a paid EMT somewhere, a dispatcher, a police officer, a nurse. All those are related to taking this course, and so.
Our sitting assistant county fire chief, who is a paramedic in Prince George's County, is a product of that program.
Yeah, absolutely. And the chief of Leonardtown. There's chief, who's the Prince George's fireman. There's people throughout this system that have gone on to bigger and better things, and there's still volunteers here in the system. And the fact that this happened, and we couldn't do anything to help, and it's not for lack of effort from the school board and from Kelly, because they have tried, and we're at our wits' end with this at this point. So. If you all would like to make comment, I'd really appreciate it, but, that's kind of where we're at, so.
I will just say that for any of you who were in our meeting at the other facility about 3 years ago when we got the program back up on its feet, I've grown to love this program. If you go to the firehouse and watch what has happened, I would say in the last 3 years before this year happened, you can see what a difference it makes for kids, and they have passion. They have passion for this program, which just helps. As you said, I didn't even know the statistics. It just warms my heart. And we've been doing well, I think. We've been growing the program. We've done a lot of things. Kelly and I have a daily relationship, either by text or email, and have for the last 3 years. And this is just really disheartening. We have made sure that the students, Kelly and I have made sure that the students had their pathway for high school and their credits, because this is no fault of any of the cadets, and I want to say that. The cadets only did what the cadets were given and told to do. It really is an adult problem, and that's what's hard for me to handle, because as I told Kelly, if this was an English teacher or a math teacher, I would be able to go in and kind of solve the problem with the principal and think that's my job. I'm director of curriculum. I can't help with MIFRE. I don't know the curriculum. They're the service providers of this curriculum. So it is heartbreaking, because now all I can say to a parent or a cadet that reaches out, because they're high school students, they can advocate for themselves. They want the certifications. And all I can say to them is, now we'll try to find other experiences for you so that you can get your certifications. I did offer summer school and providing transportation. If MIFRE would just give me the instructor, I even found a facility for them in our schools if they didn't want to use the Hollywood Firehouse, if that was not accessible. I said, I need to know in 2 weeks. Crickets. I even gave them a form letter and just said, put in the dates and I will get this started. I talked to Mr. Egan at the tech center. We got the facility ready. I got the buses ready. I even got buses if they wanted to do a burn in La Plata, and because I know some of their certifications have to be out of our county. Even though we're not doing field trips, the superintendent gave special permission that if it was a certification field trip from MIFRE, he would approve it. All of that. Even we had one scheduled and it was canceled by MIFRE. So thank you for saying that we tried, because we really do. We really much believe in this program, hoping it can get back on its feet. But my heart breaks for these kids.
Yeah, and it sounds like just for the feedback for next year, there's a lot of interest in it already.
I think we have 17 interested.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
We now have 18. So, and it's just, and just like Mrs. Bachner just stated, I think the relationship with the school board has taken, a complete 180 over, where we were at 3 years ago. We definitely needed that moment so we could come together and really look at the big picture. And now we're able to communicate much better with each other. And I felt that MIFRE, we were working really well with MIFRE as well at one point. However, over this past school year, it's definitely taken a different turn. In the beginning of the school year, I would say, COVID restrictions, it seemed like we were, semi-workable with MIFRE, and we understood, every organization had their restrictions that they had to obey and that sort of thing. And through no fault of the school system or MIFRE, a lot of students, missed out on opportunities, even at the tech center, like in welding and that sort of thing. But it is very concerning, because now we do have 18 students interested in this program next school year, but we do not want a repeat of this school year.
So I have a couple of questions. First, during the period of the strictest COVID restrictions, were we able to set up any kind of a mechanism so that these students were able to access MIFRE's courses online?
Yes, so there was virtual instruction that they were being offered.
So they had the same kind of access to that they would have had to everything else. So we couldn't get access to didactic training, to classroom style training like they were getting for everything else is not an excuse for them not being able to complete the material that they have.
And they also all came back in February. All the
So
students came back in February.
there was an opportunity starting as early as February for them to have been able to get the classroom, the practical parts of instruction that they might have not been able to get otherwise.
Correct.
Good. So for the record, I knew that. but you say these things out loud in public so that everybody knows what everybody knows. So one thing that I think is instructive in sort of like the circumstance that I happen to know is going on internally at Southern Maryland Regional Training Center for MIFRE, is that they have actually dual tasked the administrator. So he's actually covering 2 regions. Southern Maryland is the busiest region in the state. MIFRE Southern Maryland offers twice as much training as any other region in the state alone. And our guy who manages all of that is also managing another region at the same time. And I believe that that is likely compounded. That's not our problem, that's their problem. But that's a compounding factor, I think, that has probably impacted this program, because our person who was supposed to be able to pay attention to what was going on had a built-in distraction from people who are supposed to make sure he can do his job. I also think that maybe one of the things that we can do moving forward, and as we plan for what's going on next year, maybe we need to have some representation from this board as a part of your conversation. Both coordinating between, because Kelly's, you've been amazing, but I think that we can offer you some more support in a much more direct fashion than we have been able to heretofore. And just, because I work for MIFRE. I know what's going on in there, and I can call their BS when it is a flop in front of me. So I think that one of us being actively a part of that conversation, especially since we also represent a significant portion of MIFRE's regular work, not just the special thing that they're doing for the school, in partnership with the school for this. So I think that would lend a little bit more weight to the pressure that we need to put on them to make sure that we're getting the services that we need to. So Mrs. Bogner, is it too late to make any of these options for this year's students available to them now? Is there anything that we can do to help to facilitate getting these opportunities for these students who deserve them?
I would say yes. One parent who reached out to me, and I'm shocked it's just one parent, because I was telling Kelly I would not be a happy parent at all. I'd be, definitely calling it.
And I told Kelly, I'd love to hear from them too, so we can add more stuff to add to our.
Absolutely. And I told the parent she was actually very eloquent and lovely, because I don't know if I would have been as much. What we did share with her is Kelly made a commitment to the cadets, both graduates, as well as, because we have half of them are graduated last week, as well as the juniors that are in our program, that for the next 6 months, she would basically keep a distribution list, and anything that comes across her desk as a training opportunity or a company that has, an opportunity for certifications, she will get that to them, that information to them.
So Kelly, do you know what kind of record of what the students were able to do exists? By which I mean, so like for EMT, for example, because that's my discipline, that's what I know, right? So one of the things that is happening as the EMT program has developed is they should be able to step in wherever it is they were last successful. So if they pass the midterm successfully, then we can step them into the second half. They don't have to repeat the entire thing in order to complete the certification process. So do we have any way of knowing where they are as far as that progress goes?
Yes, so I know the record keeping has been kept for EMT in particular, and we do have a couple students that could transfer into another EMT class after school ends, next Thursday. So that is a possibility. And of course, as you know, for the students that weren't able to make it through the first mod exam, then they would have to start from the first.
From the beginning.
day of EMT. And I think all of the students are very willing to do whatever it takes to earn, any certification. They're all very committed to their fire departments, to their rescue squads. But I did speak to Instructor Truesdale regarding Fire One, and he recommended the students start from day one because he felt there had been too much of a time lapse. And
Because they did the fire classes first this year.
yes, yep. And they did not make it to the midterm for Fire One. So
As in the course was not even completed.
Correct.
correct. Correct.
That comment about the poker face again. So part of the reason for bringing that up is that the class that I am currently teaching is finishing their Module 2 stuff tonight. So we should talk if there's anybody that we can maybe like pull into that now because I have seats. So that's something that I know like right now in real time is something that we might be able to do for at least some of them.
And I greatly
Sooner rather
appreciate
than later.
that. But right now, we only have cadets that have made it through Mod 1.
It's worth talking about.
Okay, absolutely. We will talk.
And I think that's when the first glimmer of something was maybe up, was Christmas. And as I said, I've worked for 3 years now with knowing the pacing of your program. I mean, I don't know the content, but I know the pacing. And I let a question out. We're in Firefighter 1 and it's December and we started and like something's
Correct.
off. Now pacing, let me tell you, school-wide is off. I mean, if you have children in our school system, you know pacing is off, when kids were virtual, but not that much off. And their grades were stellar. We've never had such high grades for cadets. So I didn't see when I was getting passed back of grades that there was a concern. Because in other years, there were concerns. There were kids who were really, really struggling, especially when we go to EMT. Kids were really, my Brady, kids that were really, really struggling. And so we'd have parent conferences and things like that. And I just thought they were doing fantastic given their grades. So I didn't question that things were not going properly until December came and I was like, we're where?
And that's my frustration is, I mean, you're sitting here, these cadets normally get at least 7 disciplines. Fire 1, Fire 2, Hazmat Ops, Awareness, EMT, ARF, and Rescue Machinery, at least 7 of them. And if they join in the junior and stay junior and senior, they normally get these and now in 1 year, they're not getting one of those certifications. And that's my frustration is to say, wow, we got to get somebody's attention because this is totally unacceptable. I think we're the only county that this has happened to in the southern region, so, I'd like to make a motion that this board write a letter to University of Maryland, Director Cox of MIFRE, expressing our frustration with this and that we want some attention at least going into next year.
Second.
So I have a motion by CP, second by JA. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. All right. Is there any other?
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
And we
you.
appreciate you coming. I think there's no question of the school board's buy-in in this. I mean, I've seen Dr. Smith come to the graduation of, 10 kids a few years ago, so it's been great. So,
He asks for a report every month, and now every week.
good.
And as a parent, the program does work. Like I say, my son was one of the early participants, and now he has a career in Prince George's County, and he serves as the fire chief in Leonardtown. So it definitely does work when it's done right. So thank you.
I have kind of a cascade of thoughts. If the three of us can take a minute when we're done to just, and maybe my mind vomit will mean something and maybe it'll mean nothing to you, but I have a couple of, I think maybe potential future solutions that I specifically from the Board of Ed's perspective might be things that you'd need to run up the flagpole in order for us to be able to pull the trigger with, but I think it's worth talking about.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is LoSAP.
Okay, so a couple different things have been occurring with that. So the first, I'll talk about the actual budget that was approved. So at the end of the budget, Commissioner Hewitt and Commissioner Morgan, and then the others supported it. They had made a recommendation. There was some excess funding, and they recommended that they take excess funding and place that into the retirement fund for LoSAP, and it would basically solidify and support that retirement fund. So for every year, 2020, 2021, 2022, that amount of money that goes in was $1 million. This year, what was approved was 3.2, so that's a $2.2 million increase. Now, that specific money, again, goes into the investment account, solidifies it, and ensures that that is a soluble and good account for years to come. Now, that's the first part. The second part, in response to the letter that this board wrote to the commissioners asking for some very specific things to be done, I've received a memo, copy of a memo from Ms. Catherine Pratson, Director of Human Resources. So if you recall that there's a LoSAP Board of Trustees, and that handles that retirement fund. Currently, there is nobody on that board from Emergency Services, my department, and I'm working on that to try to see if I can get them to take it before the commissioners and ask for that. I think it's time for us to have some representation on there. But that said, that's a side piece. So in this memorandum, this is from Catherine Pratson, subject LoSAP points and service credit 2022 benefit requests. Date was June 4th, and it talks about historical information, just for you guys to remember. July 21, 2020, Commissioners submitted a request to this board to review the COVID-19 impact and consider alternative benefit credit. October 14th, 2020, the ESP responded with a recommended point award process for 2020 with a recommended point award process for 2021. Additional benefits beginning in 2022 to include increased point accruals, increased benefit amounts, health insurance, property tax incentives, free landfill access, gift cards, and death benefits. In December of 2020, the commissioners approved the revised 2020 point award process. That was the 2020 award process for COVID. In March of 2021, the commissioners certified that eligibility list incorporating the revised point award process. So remember, this taking us up to where we are. This is not addressing yet the recommendation I think you did most of the work on, so we're not there yet. So then the calendar year 2021 recommendation from the ESB as follows. For calendar year 2021, an award of 4 LoSAP points each month to volunteers able to demonstrate a reasonable restriction on participation during the pandemic response, continuing to the end of the state of the emergency. Reasonable restrictions, restrict activities from the member's physician. Recommendation, restrict activities for a member who provides in-home care for an at-risk family. Prohibition on volunteer participation by the member's employer. So with board approval, that's the LoSAP board that she's referring to, amending the point award process for county fire, EMS, and LS volunteers for calendar year 21 will be initiated and presented to the commissioners. So with board approval, in response to the proposed calendar year 2022 benefit changes, the following actions will be taken. An analysis of the financial impact to alter the current benefit payments with a proposed will be requested. An analysis of the legal and risk implications to provide volunteers with employee benefits will be requested. A survey of Maryland counties and volunteer benefits provided will be conducted. The timeline, commissioners will be sent a summary memo describing the board, the LoSAP board's approval and next steps. On June 9th, I will provide an update, which is what I'm doing to you, to the ESB. Proposed 2021 point award process will be presented to the commissioners, and with approval, public hearing process for the 2021 revision to the St. Mary's County Code will commence. So they'll set a date and propose it, and it will begin to work through that process. At the August 27th, 2021 board meeting, the analysis will be presented along with any recommendations and requested action. And then on this, it says that our request was submitted. So anyway, so that's where we are at this point. So
So is that a two-page memo that says we're working on it?
say that again,
Is that a two-page memo that says we're working on it?
in essence.
Okay.
But it's important for
That's how I heard it.
everybody that's watching to know the history of this, okay? And I think it is.
I
But-
don't disagree. I don't disagree. I'm just,
The good news
Make
is,
sure I got the
is
point.
that while we have thought that nothing has been occurring, much has been going on, and there's progress, and I'm hopeful that this will end successfully, and we will get what the board has recommended.
do you know by chance who is actually on the LoSAP trustee?
I know some,
board?
I will know more. So the last meeting was on Friday. I was away on my vacation leave. I had Mr. Gardner step in for me, but I know that the county attorney is serving as the board chair right now while Dr. Bridget's away. And of course, you have the HR director. I don't know the extent of the makeup of the others, so. But I do think it's time for us to be a part of that board and
Will you be able to share that with us once you find out?
who it is.
Yeah,
I'll be glad to send it. I'll get it and I'll send it to all of us.
Thank
So.
you.
thank you.
But, and it is online if you wanted to search for committees and boards. So, but I don't know the extent of it. I think certainly the finance director's got to be on it because of, the finances that are involved. But I don't know who else.
Well, and I think it's good that they're doing a survey of the counties. I mean, they can look to our neighbors in Calvert and see that they're,
Right, right. And,
what we're asking for is comparable.
and while I know every one of you and me, we're all anxious to get this completed, it is nice to see there's something underway and it hasn't just been not responded to or answered at all. So, all right, did I have one more thing I needed to do? Or was that the last one? I think that's the last one.
That's all on our agenda.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for that information, so we've definitely been waiting for that. With that, we'll move into new business. Is there any new business? Any new business? Board member time.
Me first, please. I just wanted to say, I wrote a couple of things down so that I wouldn't ramble too much because I know how I can be. But I think it was really disappointing to watch the Board of Commissioners play politics with people's lives in the budget process. I sat in this room and I looked at them and I challenged them to be public servants and to consider the input that they were getting from experts and people who've invested lifetimes of experience in the provision of emergency medical services. And the first time that our system came to them and said, we really need a fundamental bit of help from you, they chose not to listen. And while there was not necessarily 100% unanimity in the opinions of the people who make up our system, you can't expect thinking people to ride in lockstep. And no one believed we didn't need the 32 personnel that we asked for. So what the actions of our Board of Commissioners did was introduce further confusion and uncertainty into a process that has already been stressful and divisive in a way that is unsafe. In ignoring the advice that they received, they chose to make public health policy for the citizens of St. Mary's County based on their hopes rather than facts and rather than real advice. And I think that that is a shame. And I hope that we are able to compensate for their short-sightedness in our endeavor to continue to provide the best thing that we can for the people we have committed ourselves to. Thank you.
there any other board members' comments? Personally, I'd like to concur with Sean. I watched their budget sessions also. Hopefully, I think a couple of them promised in December to relook at this issue, and hopefully that definitely happens, and then so that we can perhaps hire the additional 16 personnel that we originally had asked for. So, thank you, Sean, for your comments. Again, is there any other board members?
I just got a question while we're on that. I guess this would be Director Walker. If they allotted you the 16 personnel, and the contractor can be done still monthly, could you possibly offset to make that 32 with the contract? I know it would be confusing. It'd be easier just to make the 32 positions, but are you capable of still funding the contract also with full-time employees?
So you're saying, can we do the contract and the full-time at the same time?
Yeah, the request was for 32, full-time employees, and they gave you 16. So I guess my question is, since you're approved for 16 FTEs, which you're certainly out scouting and hopefully to get them on by 1 July, if you see there's a shortfall, can you fall back possibly also by using that contractor also?
That's actually the intent, and that's the direction of the commissioners, to
Okay.
use the contractor for the additional people.
Got it.
It's not to cut it to 16 and not, we can't, we barely can cover what we're doing now, and that's through a lot of cooperation, through all of the rescue squads, through all of the people that we do have on hourly, and through my staff. I mean, Mr. Scott Rayleigh goes out and rides the ambulance, takes shifts. Kirsten does, Mr. Stamey does. It really is a true partnership that's occurring, but it's taxing.
Absolutely.
It's daunting with what's occurring right now. But the question that you've asked, that is the intent of the commissioners at this time, to do exactly what you said,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
All right, any other comments? Is there any comments from the public? All right,
Make a motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
motion by CP, second by Carol to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.